Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Selectboard for April 3rd, 2019. Time is 6:30. First up is review changes to the agenda. I'd like to move 8A, the LMP review, up just after number 5, after approving the minutes, since Dot is here, so she doesn't have to stay forever. Any other changes to the agenda?
Well, I'm probably going to still stay down for 9C also. You want to move that earlier?
We can.
What's 9C?
I guess it's somewhat predicated on Bruce's involvement.
I don't see a 9C. Where's 9C?
You mean 8C?
9C.
Oh, sorry.
Where's
Cemetery.
There's no 9C.
I have one here.
I
9,
don't
8
have a
o'clock,
9C.
new business, A, B, C.
Oh, I have an AB.
Okay, what did I do with?
Did you had a draft and you had a final?
Yeah, I don't know, something must have happened to the draft, there was that, right. Well, so I'm gonna add
Well,
to this draft, hang on, I'm gonna add to the final agenda, 9C, which is the Austin Cemetery.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'm gonna say, let's move that up to right after the LMP review. Yeah, I don't know, I must have somehow deleted it between the draft and the final one.
I got one. Oh yeah, I brought one from home. This is the one that was online.
No, I think that's the draft one, probably. Nope, just 9C, which is, we now have a 9C, which is Austin Cemetery. And we're gonna move it up to just past LMP review. Okay, any other changes? No? Okay. Scheduled members of public, Dot is here, Samara may show up, we'll see. Unscheduled members of the public, there are none. And we're down to 5, approve the minutes from March 20th, 2019. We'll do this since the Dot, who acted as our clerk last time, is here and she can make changes. Any changes on page 1 of the minutes?
Under number 5, seconded is an extra ED.
I spell check didn't catch that one.
Anything else on page 1?
No.
Page 2. At the very top, the first sentence, Guy Tanza said he received blah, blah, blah. Complimenting should be with an I, not an E. Complimenting.
Okay.
And then down under 7A, the very last sentence just needs a period. Brookline is in compliance. And then under B, the fourth to last sentence, crush, should be crushed stone, probably. And then second to last sentence.
Is it worst part of the road or worst part of the road?
Yeah, that should be worst, right.
Okay.
And then that next sentence will continue to scrape. You're just missing an R and scrape.
That's never gonna help us again, guys.
No, I'm just.
No, it's okay, it's like,
She's at.
she's on the hot seat now, I'm usually the guy.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
And then the only other things I really had was, you have a few W's at the end of Bruce's name
My
in a
feelings.
few
If
places.
you know what my feelings are like right now, Doc.
On that page.
Okay.
And the next page too.
Other things on page 2.
Yeah.
Were there things other than what I've mentioned on page 2 that didn't?
Paragraph A, my name again, dot.
Yeah, we'll have her, she can just search for
I
all
can
those.
search,
Because it's in
Leave the
B
W
too.
out.
Okay, anything on page 3 other than the W's in Bruce's name?
You got it right on the 4th page there,
Nope, okay. Page
I must have turned up this saw.
5, sorry, that was page 3. Page 4, under F, the last sentence shall be is Brimmer with 2 M's instead of 2 N's. Anything else on page 4? No. Anything on page 5? Okay, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from March 20th, the meeting as amended.
So,
Do I have a second?
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the March 20th minutes as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, now moving on to our moved 7 or 8A, which we moved up, which is the LMP review.
Okay,
Take it away.
the local emergency management plan for 2019, as I explained the last time, has been changed. I worked on last Wednesday during the voting time to fill out the information and touch base with Guy about some names and things. I'm pretty much ready to type it up. I didn't want to make a photocopy. I like to do the electronic ones, but I wanted to first make sure I had all the details. There's one area pretty much where I'd like the board to concur. On the first part, we said I met with Shelby on Saturday briefly to tell her about this. When we get down to the Emergency Operations Command Director, in the past, Mike Wynot and Mike Wynot and Mike Fontaine both have been co-chairs for that division. Although this year, when I read the positions and their duties, I don't think, even though they both have agreed to do this again, I don't think that they will be available because they are actually first responders to the fire departments. And so, the duties for the EOC position, the director, is to supervise and direct the activities coordinating the municipal support and response to staff phones and radios, track and answer any requests for information, track and coordinate any requests for support, produce and post public information and press releases. While I do think having 2 people to co-share that director's position is a good one, as I mentioned before, both Mike and Mike probably would not be the best at this time. I can make, if the board, my suggestion might be for the town clerk and the president of the select board to share that responsibility, because pretty much it's sitting in this office if there's a real emergency. It's sitting in this office and answering phones if there's phone service, and dealing with what has to be dealt with. And I don't want to add any more to either of your efforts, and hopefully this will never need to be implemented, but it makes the most sense because Mike and Mike won't really be available. If they are available, they would come, they would.
Right.
The second part of this positions and duties are potential members, and I would like to see that the potential members would include the other members of the select board, Bruce Mello, M-E-L-L-O, Shelley Brimmer,
Thank you.
Jens, Joseph Dutton, Gwen Tanza, Everett Mark Bills, myself, Mike Wynot, and Mike Fontaine. And if we had the co-directors as the town clerk and chair of the select board, that would be my suggestion for the best thing to put into this plan. Other than that, so that's what you need to discuss first of all. I don't know, and then I can talk about the rest of it.
Okay.
That's the main omission right now, where I think that for the benefit of the town.
I mean, I'll say that makes a lot of sense to me, and I don't have a problem with it being structured that way.
I don't have a problem.
Guy is the current town clerk.
I'd be here anyway, probably.
Right, and the other ones, myself included, and Mark would be involved if there was any.
What do other people think as far as, does that make sense to you guys, and
So
does
the
anyone
other part
have
that you
an
named
issue
all
with
of
being
us,
included in the additional?
that is, if you need further help, then you.
Yes, if other staff members that are responsible for things that happen in town
Right.
would most likely be the select board, the other select board members. The road, suggested on the template was the road supervisor. And I put myself in there because I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years and probably know the paperwork a little bit better.
Right.
And will certainly be here. But that was the main thing, would be to switch with Mike and Mike for Dave and Guy.
Is there a chain of command in there?
That is the chain of command. The top chain of command would be the 2 people, the co-chairs.
Okay,
And then following that would be the rest of the select board.
and where's what, Mike, why not, and
They
Mike?
would
why-
be with the rest of the select board. They would be other staff and potential
Okay.
EOC staff members.
Yeah, because they would be here if that bridge was wiped out, but if it wasn't, they would,
Right.
yeah, and then I would think that probably in the event of a catastrophic event, we would probably use Newbrook for our meeting place and so forth.
Well, if there was a that is the secondary place. I put the primary, was here.
Only because we can only put 25, 30
Oh,
people.
this is not a shelter. I'm not talking about
Okay,
shelter.
okay.
I'm talking about office and command
Okay,
would be
Yeah.
here.
okay.
For Brookline, if it was possible. If not, you would go to Newbrook Fire Department. It's not, we're not talking about sheltering, we don't
Okay.
have a shelter. in
No, I just
Brookline.
wanted to get a
Originally, we had thought
clarification.
about doing a shelter at the elementary school, we just could, at the daycare, but we just could not bring that up to snuff to do that.
Okay. So it sounds like sort of by consensus, we're all fine with that, with the structure you suggest.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's,
All right, so I will add those positions and switch them around, and then get this typed up electronically. I'll share it with Wyndham Regional Commissioners, and once they get the approval, then I'll electronically send it all to you. You'll have it for the April 17th meeting, in which case you'll vote on it, and you'll sign up on a form, and then you'll be able to submit it, obviously, by May 1st. There's one other thing that when I was reading the plan that we don't have to do, but I think might not be such a bad idea to do. And that would be to take a look or to survey later on in the year, and I'd be willing to work with somebody on the select board with that, maybe through the listserv, to find out who has a portable generator that they could loan if we needed it. For instance, I do. I could certainly loan a portable generator. You might have. Who has an automobile with, I don't have it enrolled in it because it's expensive, but I could get phone calls to my car. It could be a Wi-Fi hotspot, and that any of the new pickup trucks or vehicles
Guy has one.
has that capability. So it might be interesting to get people to, sign up saying, if there's a need and we have no communication in town, that might be the only way to communicate. So I'd look on that for
Also, it'd be interesting to see if we have any ham operators in town,
ham operators, all of that.
because they're,
Yeah, because we are really this little community of 500 people. If that bridge goes out, we could be pretty much on our own
Yeah.
here. So it might just be a way to share information. So I'm just,
It's a good
it's not
idea.
required, but it's something that I would.
no, it seems sensible to have some kind of list of knowing in
Yeah,
different
well-
scenarios who would be people
Who would
we
help,
could
who's
first go
nurse,
to.
who's there medical professionals around that maybe might need, but hopefully we never will need it.
Right,
But I just would like
we
to
could be prepared.
add that to the plan. And then the plan, looks like the form that we'll use this year, next year, it says, there's a checkpoint that says, the plan has not changed. So, except for the names of people, we could just resubmit the same plan. So that would work out good. This is the first year it's been changed. So that's my report.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you for all your work.
yeah, thanks for that.
Okay, and then we'll move to 9C, which we moved up, which is a little discussion about the Austin Cemetery, which is also Dot's
Okay, I'm taking that. All right, a few years ago, I don't know if you all remember, those who are on the board, Peter Meyer came to the meeting and asked what the broken cemetery stones leaning against the tree at the Austin Cemetery was all about. That was about 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
So since then, I've been to all of the cemeteries, I've met with Charlie Marchant, we've gone to all 5 of the cemeteries. For those of you that don't know, we have 5 ancient cemeteries. One is at the Ezekiel's family lot, property. There's about approximately 12, maybe less than 12 graves there. There's one at Cynthia Now's yard, she maintains that graveyard. There's an east and west side of Athens Road at the end of where the pavement ends, those 2 cemeteries, and then the Austin Cemetery here next to Servo's property. A couple of years ago, after talking to Charles Marchant about the cemeteries, and I joined the Vermont Organization of Cemetery, Ancient Cemeteries, and learned quite a bit about them. And so 2 years ago, I asked that we increase the amount of funding for our cemeteries here in town. The 5 cemeteries I just named are controlled by the Selectboard, not the cemetery commissioners. The cemetery commissioners control the cemetery over at Riverside on Hill Road. That's the most public cemetery, and that has its own fund. What the Select Board is responsible for doing is keeping ancient cemeteries in good repair, spending, a couple of $100, I believe it's $200 a year on a cemetery, per cemetery. I asked for and received in the budget $2,000 last year, and again in the upcoming budget, another $2,000. What we were able to do in the Austin Cemetery, in all the cemeteries, was Why Not Work came aboard and did a very thorough initial cleaning of all the cemeteries. What we had in the past was someone that would come in Memorial Weekend, before Memorial Weekend and before Labor Day weekend, and weed whack the area. Well, if you just weed whacked, I thought I saw snow. If you weed whack your yard for 8 or 9 years, you would know it gets a little bit wild. So he did quite a bit of cleaning up in those cemeteries, and we spent a little bit more money. It's within budget, but we spent more money last year than we usually do, and we got the $2,000 this year. So, all right. Not this year, last year, correct.
Well, it's in this year.
We're in this year, and then July starts the next year.
Right.
Okay, so, in my research with the cemeteries, the Austin Cemetery needs some work. The first problem that I come across with the Austin Cemetery, and this is the one down by Servo's, is the fact that Tom Bloom put a posted no trespassing sign at its entrance. And that should not be there. It means that no one can enter into the cemetery. It's a public cemetery. He may have purchased property from the Servos behind the cemetery, but the access to his property has to come from another access point to the north of the Papoose Creek Bridge. He'd have to build his own bridge. He can't use the cemetery pathway as a means to drive equipment and take timber down or to do any of the work, because that's part of the deed of things. So I need someone to research and confirm the deed and ask him to remove that sign. It was one of the things on my list when I was on the Select Board, and time just got away and I never followed through on it, but it was something that I've been concerned about. Every time I drive by, I said, that has to come down. But it is a legal posted sign because he registered the signs with the town, correct?
Mhm.
So, we need to find out, a sign needs to be placed somewhere else. Someone has to research the deed and it should be surveyed.
Is the problem him really using that as an egress, or is the problem that he's posting?
It's posted, and if he intends to use it because he just purchased the
Yeah.
property recently, then he needs to know that that's not permissible. The Select Board can't allow a private citizen to use the public cemetery access route to go to their property. That would be like cutting through the Riverside Cemetery to go down to Dutton Fields.
Is it cutting through the cemetery, or is it
It's,
just
well, it is part of the.
I haven't seen it, I'm trying to visualize, so.
Well, if you want to think about the cemetery is surrounded by stone walls. The western side is the one along the road that you see, where I have the flags, I put the flags up for Memorial Day. The eastern
It's
side
where they
is where
built that,
is where
on
the,
Grassy Road, they built the wall several years ago. Right above that is the cemetery. Where they
Oh.
put that stone wall in
Okay,
with the big rocks, right above that is the cemetery.
so Grassy Brook Road is here, this is the north side, the south side, the east side, and the west side. The actual entrance, if you look, Mr. Joe Serbo placed and unlocked, but he placed a little gate here. And we had this pathway, which is for horse and buggy, or cars could drive. And there's a little area here where they can park. The entrance to the cemetery is at the eastern side. There is a large, old little pine tree there. And that's where the original broken tombstones were laying that got Peter Meyer's attention. Well, what I'd like to suggest this year is that we do another project with it. I do have a past resident who has moved, her name is Penny Massey, she said hello to Joseph. Penny Massey used to own the farm at Serbo's. She and I have been in contact for the past 3 years, and we talked about different things. She actually came up from Mexico this October, met with me. We walked through the cemetery again, and she would like to work with me and the town in sponsoring a major cleanup. What she has offered to do, with the board's permission, is to pay for up to $5,000 worth of work in the Austin Cemetery, and it would consist of, again, making sure that this area here, which is the driveway in, is maintained, because it got a little rough. Even though we cleaned it up last year, it still needs to be a little bit more cleaned up. The stone walls that surround the cemetery are in disrepair. I have an estimate to do this work where the stone walls would be rebuilt, and where the gaps are, they would be filled. There's a very large broken gap very close to the road at the western side of the cemetery, so we would fill that in. These stone walls would be all made intact. We would actually have like a little higher entranceway to the eastern side of the cemetery, so you know you were entering the cemetery, make it very clear. There's a lot of trees that have grown up in here that the project would entail cutting down these small trees, taking out the trunks, removing the brush, cleaning on both sides of the stone wall down to the street, all around here, so that the cemetery would be looking to be made pristine. It would involve bringing in a 10,000-pound vehicle with a blade and pusher on it that would be carefully maneuvered on the outside, that would help to move the rocks, to build the stone wall, and to take out the stumps. We would also be looking at some hiring, Why Not Work gave me an estimate, and I had another landscaper from Townsend look at it, from Apex Landscaping, and he said that the estimate was remarkably prudent. 30% discount, he felt that he would not have been able to do it for the amount that Why Not Work said he was going to do it for. Tanner is very interested because it's something he feels very town-oriented, that this would be, part of it would be a gift to the town. The estimate is about, he gave me an estimate of $5,205, and that included doing all of the work that I just mentioned, and adding soil. Okay, remember when I talked about the tombstones that were leaning against the tree? Many years ago, at least 3, maybe 4 bodies were uninterred and moved to Riverside Cemetery. So if you go walking around in Austin Cemetery, it's a little creepy because you see where the bodies or the graves used to be. So in the project, we were to bring in the dirt, level it out, remove the brush, reseed the entire cemetery, mulch it, remove the trees, fix the walls, make sure the access was there. We're looking at approximately $5,500. So it's about $500 more than what Penny Massey will donate. And I thought, since we have a budget of $2,000, maybe some of that money, the other $500 could come from there.
Didn't she own the restaurant
I don't
in
know.
Townsend?
Penny Massey? I don't know.
No,
I don't think
that
so.
was Donna and Joe.
Donna
And
Joe
actually, like
Peters.
to come back up from Mexico.
Donna and Joe
again
Peters.
And she, you know, to see the final end of the project. And I'm actually trying to look at maybe doing a little PR that would be associated with the project. Because I think back cemeteries and the history of the town is very interesting. The Austin Cemetery is where the Bennetts from the Round Schoolhouse were buried, and there's a monument up there. And I just think it would be a sort of a neat little way to get Brookline, you know, recognize some of the great people that live here and work here, and probably can get some other people to then help us with some of the other cemeteries as time goes on. So that's my request, is to consider having, to accept the donation from Penny Massey to do this work this summer, late spring, early, you know, in the summer, to bring that up to, and he is a preferred vendor, yes.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of the logistics, but that's okay.
Do we know at this point what has been spent?
You go log on and look. I'm sure we haven't spent $2,000 on the old cemetery, that I'm sure of.
No.
This would happen before June 30th or after June 30th?
Yeah, maybe.
No, I mean, I'm asking because
Depends on the budget.
the $2,000 that was appropriated in this fiscal year runs out on June 30th. On July 1st, $2,000 comes into the next year's budget. Remember, the revenue and expense is a movie. It starts and stops at the beginning of every year.
The project can be divided in such a way, if we knew the
You
amounts,
could,
to do, say, we're gonna do this phase 1 and phase 2.
well, I'll put that on a note to send out,
Does any money left over from this year roll over to the next year?
not unless we vote it in
Okay.
Fund 1. In the highway fund, yes, it automatically rolls.
Okay.
The town general operations, we have to vote. The town voters have to vote.
I guess I'd ask for people's opinions. I mean, if, let's say for the sake of argument that in this budget, we did have $500 available in the cemetery line item to spend on this, what are people's opinions as to whether, is that something
I
we
think
should?
it's a wonderful idea, actually. We're being given $5,000 to work, we're asking for another $500 out of a fund we already have. My estimation is a no-brainer.
My other question is, have you worked out the logistics with Penny of how she would she make an actual donation to the town, or would it be like she would reimburse as the
Originally-
expenses were?
She could do it either, anywhere
Or would she pay the, well, no, I mean, I think it's a question of
That's why I'm keen to find
working
the
out those
board.
details and then probably putting something in writing, like a little agreement, you know, this is, we graciously accept your gift and this is how it'll work and blah, 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 blah.
Originally, Penny wanted to say anonymous, and she wanted it to appear as if
She could
I
be
was going to
anonymous.
pay for this work, and I was very uncomfortable with that situation. So she said, I'll wire the money to you, but make a long story short, she would pay the town, she could pay him, she,
Okay.
whatever you'd
So
like.
those details could be worked
Yeah,
out,
they
and I
should be
guess
worked out.
Shelby, put you on the spot, what's your opinion of this? It's just general. We're not making a decision on anything tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I
There's
think
other
if
things we have to
there's,
figure out, but just in
I
general.
think if there's an excess in the budget for this year, for what you had already planned, and then I guess I just would wanna see the bid, I'm sure that you said it looks like a great like a good bid. So I guess I'd just be interested in reviewing the information more in detail, but I definitely think if this is already a process we've started, and it's definitely a big savings. The thrift shopper in me can't really beat the $500 for $5,500, but yeah, I'd be interested, I guess, kind of really understand what work's being done.
I can read it
Yeah.
to you if you like, or make a copy of it.
Yeah, if I could just have a chance, and then when we kind of talk about it in more detail.
Yeah.
I kind of want to know, I guess, what we're getting for that money, because it's, you know.
Right,
Fine.
right. I agree. Joseph, what are,
Yeah, I think that it's a good idea, and then it's something that Penny wants to do, and so she's really taking on the brunt of it, so I think it's a good idea.
what? Anything?
I think it's the same, I think it's, you know, we started trying to get these cemeteries up because they were in such poor repair, that I think Dottie's tenacity to do this has been a blessing for the town, and I think just getting this done would be awesome, especially when she's got people willing to support it.
Yeah, right. So I think I think just generally by consensus, I think we're up for the idea of it. I think we have to work out some of the particulars, and I personally think we need, and you had indicated this before, we need to work out the details with Tom and the access before we
Yeah, that's a
consider
concern,
doing
that's
anything.
primary
Because
concern before
we
we,
need to make sure
the
that's
signage.
not gonna undo some amount of this work or
If he's gonna bring
whatever.
something through that's gonna
Yeah,
change the landscape
so-
on us right after you.
The town has
Right,
a
you have-
responsibility to maintain the integrity and the respectability of all cemeteries. So that would fall into that particular thing, that they have to do something. We have neglected them for a while, or haven't really paid a lot of attention to them. I don't think we totally neglected them. The grass has been cut, there's been a little bit of maintenance done. And in regards to the wall that fence that has the no trespassing sign, I'm gonna look, when if you make a note, I'll look at, Tom Bloom bought 32 acres from Gene Serbo a few years ago, and it surrounds that particular cemetery that we're talking about. And I'll see if there is some sort of legal instrument in the vault that can tell us one way or the other, without getting into a legality, but, if he's in violation, we'll just explain to him that, it just has to come down. But,
I understand that the Massey's had the area surveyed, and so you should see that in
Okay.
the deed.
And the other thing, while we're talking about cemeteries, 2 years ago, I was tasked as a 911 coordinator to put addresses on all the cemeteries, which we did. I would like to see, and maybe Mark could help me on this, that the town appropriate some money for signs with the address like we did with the town yard. And the reason for that is, God forbid someone's visiting a cemetery and they have a heart attack or something happens, they get hurt, the 911 responders need to have an address to go to. So the cemetery's already got a 911 address, but it doesn't have a street pole for the responder to find. So, it looks like your house has a 911 address. I would like to see that be part of the cemetery upgrades.
One other thing, and I'll certainly give you a copy of this, but the extra $500 pretty much covers the topsoil to level out the indentations in the ground, the 100 pounds of grass seed, it involves getting mulch, and that's the 500, it's the dirt, the seed, and the mulch, the only other work can be covered under the rest of it. But, yeah, so at your direction, and when you can let me know a little bit more, I'm a little bit discombobulated because I don't have my normal kitchen table to work off of and email and do that kind of thing, so, yes. that's-
Well, you're welcome to work here.
I know, I
And by
have
the
really
same
good
token,
feeling for you.
we'll look up
On the
the,
floor.
because the cemeteries are sacred grounds and we need to take care of that.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for all the work that you've done looking into this, and I think we just need to work out some of the details and make sure we've resolved the potential access issue with Tom and all that before we get too carried away.
Thank you very much, I know Penny's very excited to have.
That's great, it's wonderful for
Yeah,
her to be
and I
willing
think
to
we
do
can-
this.
No, I could tell you exactly what's been spent so
Okay.
far. In old cemeteries, of the $2,000, $700. We've only used $700 of the budget.
So we could do 500 and still have a surplus that could be rolled over, that could be decided on.
You could use
And that's
five,
just
if you
Yeah.
used up the 500 this year, I mean,
You still
there's.
have-
Doesn't it,
Yeah.
there still would be a surplus in that line item for,
And there's still gonna be spring cleanup for the cemeteries, this is after spring cleanup occurs.
Right, there's gonna
that's not
be,
included by
It's
the,
not in the,
they will
no,
have
this
to clean
is,
up as part of their
The spring
process?
cleanup is the town's responsibility
Okay.
for all the 5
$700
cemeteries, except for the one at Cynthia's who maintains
And
her
how much
stuff.
does that
I
cost?
think that must have cost $750
it's a couple $100 anyway, but it's,
$700
to do all 5.
14,000, I
Yeah,
think, still
there
got
was
$100 left.
$700 of the $2,000 in the budget for old cemeteries.
So you still have extra.
Was expended through today, April 3rd.
And it can't be rolled over because
It
that
doesn't
has to
roll.
be voted by the town, so.
No, I
Right,
didn't
although-
say it was gonna be rolled, I was saying
Yeah.
whatever, I was just curious if we have a surplus still afterwards, that would be in there.
Well, and I guess,
If you only allocate $500 after, well, if you say there's 2,000 minus 700 minus another 700, would mean 1,400, so that leaves you with 600 minus 500, you're still at 100 left, there you go.
And then you have to
Well,
budget
you
next year.
We wouldn't go over.
You could
Yeah.
potentially stay within, yeah, you should
Yeah.
stay within.
We'd stay
budget.
within budget, okay, cool.
Thank you very much. for
Excellent.
your time and
Thank you.
for getting that
Thanks for
real
all that.
quickly.
Sorry, wrong.
I'd like to suggest, I know we didn't do this when we were changing the agenda, but I'd like to suggest we move 9A, the town treasurer transition, up to the next item since Samara's here, so she doesn't have to
Thank you.
see her around. Is everyone generally in
No
agreement?
problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna move 9A up. And so Samara, so you've been working with
Yeah, I
Danny,
wanted
and
to
how's it going?
update, I wanted to kind of update you and let you know what, I wanted to make sure we're kind of meeting each other's expectations, because I really am trying to transition out of here. But I feel a sense of responsibility, and I've been working with Danny since the beginning of March. And with Sarah Wiswall, who's the assistant treasurer, who's been on since August. So you've got two new people who are very bright and not accountants. So for Shelby and Joe's sake, I had 30 years of accounting experience.
You kinda know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's not a mandate in the state of Vermont. Most people in the town treasurer position have no experience. And as I assured Danny, is that I was an art major. If I can learn accounting, anybody can. So, that said, we're sort of slowly plugging along and taking on, piece by piece. I'm trying to train her as much as possible. She did the payroll warrant today. We did it together. Not today, yesterday. And today I came in and finished the AP warrant. But for the time being, you'll probably see more of me than you will as the closer and closer we get to June. I'm trying to phase out from active work by the end of June, with the caveat that Danny has my cell number. She can always text me if she gets into trouble, or if she needs help. I know her schedule will be different than mine. I pretty much work Mondays and Wednesdays in the office. Right now, we're both here on a Friday. Everybody is pretty much in on Fridays. Usually me, Danny, and Sarah, because Danny has a babysitter that day, and Sarah is off from her other job. She's town clerk up in Jamaica. They're both really quick. They're picking up things pretty quickly, but there's a lot they don't know. So, and we had some sort of computer software glitch that threw our financials out of whack last month. And most of it is worked out. I'm still looking for a mystery problem on the balance sheet. So ordinarily, we try to get financial reports to everybody by the second meeting of every select board month. So we missed February because there's something upside down still in the payables. I have to figure it out on Friday, hopefully. The other things I was gonna suggest is that things that I took on that are not traditionally treasury roles, because we don't have an admin assistant in our office, both Guy and I have taken on a lot of those tasks, and other people too, we all kind of share the administrative burden. But there are two things in particular that I'm hoping that select board members, and I'm looking at the new people, will consider taking on. One is the grants management, and I actually owe you a form. You will have it by next meeting. We'll do it on Friday. In order to get highway grants, you have to give the Agency of Transportation, your annual budget. It's like within 30 days after your town meeting or something like that. And the first 3 years I was here, I think I forgot to do it, and they called me and told me to do it. But I finally caught on and started doing it on time. But that's a Form TA60, and I'll prepare it, we'll prepare it on Friday, and then you guys have to, I believe the select board has to sign it, and then we just email it in. And then, the other thing is.
Aren't you past that 30-day?
I probably am, I got a call from Megan when she was in talking to Guy, and I said we would get it done
Yeah,
this month, and she said, fine, that's fine.
she was okay with that.
She's okay with that. And, so she knows it's coming, she just wanted to make sure it was coming. And then there are periodically, whenever grant reimbursements come through, whenever we put in for our money, there's more forms that you guys sign, but we have a spreadsheet, so if either one of you guys know Excel, good, then,
Sounds like my best friend.
great, I love Excel, I
love
know.
it so much.
Me too, I love it.
I make excuses at work.
I use it for everything. Okay, perfect, Shelby.
All I do is.
Perfect, because I will share with you, I started a grant spreadsheet and it's got a filter on it, so you know what status everything is. Everything's listed by grant number and description, and whether it's complete or in progress, or how much money we have to have, how much we have to keep for the match. Because typically they never pay 100%. Sometimes with the Agency of Transportation, it's either usually a 10 or a 20% town match. And you have to be aware of that so that we don't spend down all the funds in the highway fund, for example. So there's really only 2 grants right now that are pending. One is the big salt shed grant, which is a 4-year grant. Or two, I forget.
5 years.
It was 5 years, yes.
5 years. It's a long grant, it crosses multiple years. And the second one is one that is complete. Mark finished the work, it was a Better Back Roads pilot project. And he finished the work, and I started the paperwork, but I haven't finished it yet. So what the treasurer can do is absolutely help with the paperwork and follow up and do a lot of the follow-up, but there's some work in tracking, okay, did we meet this deadline, is there a report due? And we have a spreadsheet that just needs to be updated periodically, so that's one. And the second one was, the other thing that we took on that isn't traditionally in the treasurer role is we started a roads inventory, not the inventory that WRC is working on, that's another grant that's out there pending. The Wyndham Regional is doing all the work, just when they're done, we'll put in for our money and then they'll get paid, and we'll maybe, they basically get all the money, so. Anyway, the deal is with, I lost my train of thought. Shoot, right, the roads inventory. So when Mark does work or other contractors do work, we're logging where the work is done. And Sarah Wiswell's been maintaining it, but I think as I start phasing out and Danny and Sarah pick up more of the treasury stuff, they're gonna need help with that. And that is important. I was told having this is really good if we ever need a FEMA grant, because what we do is we put in the date, the work that's been done, and where it was done, the location, so we know which roads have had work done and in what years. And we may never need another FEMA grant, but if we ever do, apparently it's, I can't remember all the details off the top of my head, but having this list of where the road work was done, well, it's good at,
How much money that we.
and how much money we spent on each road, and you know, what type of repairs were done. It's also in an Excel spreadsheet. And so it would be good for a select board member, if not to do all the work, you know, to at least review it and keep tabs on it and make sure the road commissioner knows, because he's got his hands full with the town clerk too. So I'm a little concerned that, you know, I don't want to push that off on Guy, because he really needs some, you know, it's really one more thing. So those two things, I'm hoping that,
I guess what I would suggest is that, I mean, I think for all of us, we probably need to see a bit more of the actual detail of
I'll send it. I'll
what you guys
email
are
it.
doing and what we would need to pick up. Can it all be effectively? I mean, maybe if you could email it and we could then put some
Sure.
time on a future agenda to just
Yeah, that-
talk
that's a
about
good idea.
that, so
Why
you
don't
can
we,
fill in blank.
and then probably we'll think of more things. Because,
You don't have to, you can,
No, that's good, I thought that's
I think
sounding
we're
good.
good.
2 new members, 2
Don't
different
waste the
towns
energy
you're looking
thinking
to
of other
find
things,
homes
it's just-
for.
you mean other things, yeah. But so, and then I just wanted to say, so, I do expect to be able to be available for budget this year. I mean, not as intensively, but I promised Danny I will not, you know, throw her up with, you know, for her first year getting through budget. And there may be some transitional hiccups between, like, because I really meant to have the TA 60 done tonight. And I don't, because I need to, you know, I'm rejigging my schedule around theirs, et cetera.
Could I have Danny's full name?
Pardon?
Could you tell me Danny's full name?
Danny, it's Daniela Nystrom,
N-Y-S-T-R-O-N.
Nystron.
Danielle is D-A-N-I-E-L-A.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you could read this from here?
And Sarah, yeah.
You know I spelled it wrong.
Watching your typing.
But I will say that we've come a long way since when I started. We are not in, as Guy will attest, we are not in this less than great shape we were in when we first came on.
Oh, no, we're in fine
We're in
shape.
good shape. We have a surplus in our highway account, not as, I mean, we've used up some of it, which is what we should do to repair the roads, but we have new reserves in our for operations and for building maintenance, which we've never had before. And so far, the transition is going pretty well. It's just gonna be a question of figuring out, new schedule changes and things like that. And knowing that the two new people are very, very sharp, but they're not accountants, so I'm willing to be a troubleshooter from time to time, but I really don't wanna be the full-time treasurer, I don't wanna be the part-time treasurer anymore. As after June 30th, really and truly.
Thanks, Samara, for that, and for continuing.
Oh, and I left new employee paperwork.
I got, they have the copies of it, I explained.
And Guy can do the signing for the I-9 stuff, and y'all tend to, unless you guys have some pressing reason to do otherwise, the convention is every select board member we pay out the select board member stipend is just after budget is sort of roughed out. It's the first pay period in December too.
Yep.
Just wanted you to know.
Time for your Christmas shopping.
Yeah, before Christmas, we pay before Christmas. Unless the new treasurer makes up a new rule.
Cool, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, now we're back to number 6 of update reports. Guy, as a town clerk, what's going on?
A number of issues, we've had some, a couple of people complain about some of the furniture and garbage dumping on Elmware Road and up above Johnny Swing's house. I told her, I asked her to come to the select board meeting, and she said she was a little shy and asked if I would pass on the information. And she said in the town that she came from, they would put up cement barriers and so forth to kind of, and I said, well, I don't think that would work here. For number one, it's private property, we'd have to go through a whole thing to put barriers up. But I did let her know that I would alert you to the fact that this is going on. And I explained to her that we have done Ellenware Road a number of times, and as soon as we clean it up, it gets right back to the same thing. It's a situation where 95% of our residents will do everything right. That 5% you're never gonna ever train or get, whatever reason. Until they get caught, until we can put some hefty fines on them. We don't have an ordinance, but the state of Vermont has a $500 fine for littering. And if we can get the state police or the sheriff's department or someone to maybe take a look or have some sort of proof, then that's the only avenue that we have, that we can go down. But I did promise her that I would bring that up to you. The other thing is dog licensing. Last Friday night, Gwen and I were here from 4 until 7. We did the dog clinic at the Newbrook Fire Station. And we're up to 103, 104 dogs that are licensed. There's still probably approximately 20 out there that need to be licensed. We're gonna be here in the office this Saturday for a Saturday of the month. And historically, I've always let people, I rescind the fines, the penalties for late up until the first week of April, even though it's supposed to be April 1st. We're a small town, we only have 2 days that we're here, so we try to make it as easy as possible. But after this Saturday, there will be late fees that will be incorporated into the rate structure. And then if you don't do it by May, there's a $50 penalty, which is, last year we had 4 or 5 people that had to pay that. $67 for a dog that you only had to pay $9 for. So it's really up to you. Then I will give a list of the untagged dogs to the animal control officer, and then she will go knock you on doors.
Thank you, Samara.
Basically, that's it. And I just wanted to say that Samara's been doing the heavy lifting in the treasurer's office. And the other ladies are coming right along. I don't see any place where we're any weaker than we were last year. So I think in all, I think she's got some good candidates, and I think the town will stay in compliance like we always have been for the last number of years. Just to reiterate, when we first started here, we had IRS fines over $10,000. We had delinquent taxes $150,000. That's over and done, and we certainly don't want to go back to those ways. And from the looks of it now, we will not. We're in good shape, and I want to thank Samara again for all the work that she's done. It's been a pleasure working with her, and I will always continue to work with her. And I think she's got some really good candidates. So that's all from the town clerk's point of view.
Segueing into your road commissioner role.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
This meeting, this week I arranged a meeting with the V-Trans people, and we sat down and I wanted to make sure that the town was in total compliance with all the different things that we have to do. The TA-60, as Samara mentioned, which is basically, it tells you how much money we've allocated to the roads that we're required to do, because we get paid for each mile that we have. And if we have to dedicate, I think, $300, minimum of $300 to each road, and we have to show that to continue getting that allotment. We also went over the Better Bridges and Roads information that's being updated this year, so consequently we don't have a signed form, but she said not to worry about it because of that reason that they're updating it. So when it's all updated, we will receive a draft and we'll do that, and we'll be in compliance with that. Everything else we're in compliance with. I've been working with Marion Majors in regards to getting the RFP out for the design engineer for our salt shed. That's moving right along. So the wheels are moving, and the roads are in great shape. Mark has done an incredible job working some nights at 10 o'clock at night, midnight, waiting for the ground to get a little solid so it could scrape along, but I'll let him touch base on that. I think we got through the mud season relatively unscathed, considering that it was a real nightmare. It was probably one of the worst in what people are saying in 10 years. So I know people parking the bottom roads, it's ugly, it's nasty, it could have been a lot worse, but I think we're well on the downside, and I'm looking forward to better times ahead.
Update the pothole situation.
Oh, the pothole in front of Howard Osgood's has been repaired.
Yes.
I finally, out of frustration, I got hold of O'Brien Paving, and I asked him to come down, take a look at it. He gave me a rough estimate of $250. And I said, okay, when you send your man down, if that's the number that you can get, we'll do it. and he did a great job, he
Yeah,
cut it out, he
it's
did
good.
everything, and, that's been resolved, but it was a long time. Part of the problem was that we had ice in there, we had constantly up and down weather, we had snow, slush, and then Howard was nice enough to move the snow that was pushed along the side so the water wouldn't come back in. The first day it was dry, I called O'Brien, he was there, he did it, and now everything is good to go.
Well, the first plug that we put in didn't stay.
Oh, yes, we did.
That's right.
We did put some material that we got from WW, I'm sorry. And, it lasted for days and we didn't know, but, you know, we tried. We
I saw that.
were reaching for straws because it was
Coming
a.
back out because the
Yeah.
rest of us when they hit their
Okay,
tire.
but you learn from your mistakes, but at the same
Right.
token, going forward, I think O'Brien did an excellent job.
Yeah, it
He
looks
was
great.
there when he said he would do it, and the job looks great. He used a saw to cut it out, he did everything, cleaned it up,
And
and he
he was
used
really
hot
good on
patch,
return
not just cold
calls.
patch. Hot patch,
Uh-huh.
I asked him the duration on that, and he said it would last just as long as blacktop. So
Sweet.
we're in good shape that
That
way.
looks nice, it looks really nice.
And I'll let, Mark talk about his doings with the grader and so forth.
Yeah, basically just continuing to keep the roads as flat as I can under the conditions. Some of them are drying out and starting to compact and filling in the ruts with the drier dirt that is dried on the surface. So actually did another round this afternoon and hit all the roads that required maintenance. And I also, at the time that the O'Briens were in town, I was able to connect with him and show him the pothole. And at the same time, I had him go back down to the area of question by the bus service to get an estimate for removal of the crown on the hill. And so I didn't ask him for a price quote, I asked him just to give me a ballpark figure. I measured the area that seems to be the high point in the hill, which about a 300-foot section to clean off to make this area so you wouldn't know it was ever there. So at the start and finish will be nothing, and like a 2 to close to 3 foot high point in the center of the cut. And so the price estimate that I got from him, which would be cutting the pavement, removing the pavement, taking it out of town, removal of all the undersurface, gravel, sand, whatever it turns out to be. And then that would also be compacted with a compactor roller, a large piece of equipment. And also, he requested that we put 3 inches of new pavement down as a base for to resurface the area. And that would be, 3 inches would be what he requested. So that when they do our main,
It's solid.
blacktop surface, that'll cover right over with another probably 3 inches, 3 or 4,
Just may have a half foot.
right? And that also included, new gravel put down under that pavement compaction that meets state standards. So that price was just over 20,000 for the pavement and removal. So I've got some orange fluorescent marks out there so that when we agree upon a time that everybody could meet, that we can go there and do a site visit and see if we feel it's necessary or not necessary.
And this would be $20,000 in addition to what we would spend just for the paving for this year.
I didn't have him break it down, I can get it broken down.
No, I mean, this isn't, the $20,000 isn't including that paving of that stretch, that's a separate project.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten price on the
Mhm.
paving.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, that would just get us to like, ready to pave on it.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, be,
On top of it. Where the, do we have 20 grand in our highway fund?
There's money in the highway fund, but again, that I have to look at,
Okay.
because
uh,
there's money coming in still. I mean, there's a certain amount that comes in, we get like 38,000 every year to spend it. And we've gotten our first 3 quarters payment, I
Yeah.
think, but we haven't gotten the 4th quarter.
According to your guesstimate, we would have in the paving
We had a
and
surplus.
69,000 by June 30th.
Paving.
Paving, just in the paving,
Well,
right. That was a guesstimate at the time.
Yeah, I have to guess.
Right.
Right.
so one thing I would like to consider, I was here the other day when Megan Brunk came from V-Trans, yes, thank you, and our class 2 road that goes through town from the Green Iron Bridge to the end of Whitney Hill, we won't be eligible for any paving for several years. That,
Paving grants.
yeah, our, that's where when we do our paving, it's matching funds. So it'll be several years before we see funding.
Because we had a grant several years ago, so they.
Yeah, we're on the bottom of the list.
Yeah, where are we in the cycle?
We're on the bottom, we're number 24 out of 25.
Oh.
But that was to be expected because we used
We
the
used a lot of
175.
grants from them.
Yep.
Are there any other grants available to us?
Not for matching grants for the highway, the paving, but not right now, I should say.
So sorry, but to get back, Mark, was there, I think there was maybe a point.
Well, knowing that we won't be doing any paving for several years, I know we need to save money so that when we do get our match, but we might be able to somehow get a hold of some of that paving
That's
money
true.
to maintain our secondary roads such as Hill Road and the other Putney Mountain roads that we're pretty good shape. Putney Mountain's all new, most of Hill Road is new with the exception of this new half-mile that we're looking at. So we're basically, the only paving we'll be requesting will be this Hill Road closure. And also our structure grants at the meeting, noting that we have another eligible site down the road here for another box culvert to be installed, and we're at the bottom of that list as
Right.
well, so we won't be doing any major box culvert or structures for, another.
Unless something changes.
The only way we can get something from them would be an emergency
Yep.
fund. Those are always available if needed. It has to require a certain amount of funding, and then will be put out for emergency grants. So, I know there's mixed feelings on the repair to Hill Road, but if we could set up a meeting
Yeah.
over it. And I don't know if we're,
Actually,
like,
yeah.
that estimate, that's just one guy, it might be able to be done more feasibly.
Well, we'll have to put it out to bid
Yeah, you have to put it out to bid for your purchasing.
Yeah.
if the select board agrees.
Now that we know that it's definitely gonna be enough to, I mean, that's pretty,
And-
that's bid
And
worthy.
whether that all falls under a contract service, which we have a certain set of money set aside for contract service, or if the paving could go into come out of the
Well,
paving.
we budget for, if you look at your town report, you'll see line items for specific things, as well as contract services, so the paving can all come out.
Yeah, contract services, we have $39,000 budgeted.
And that's why the highway fund budget, if you don't spend what you have budgeted, that rolls over to the
Right.
next year. So if you end the year with the surplus, that automatically rolls over. That's per state law. And it probably would be really timely for me to send out that list of grants. So Friday, I'll be in on Friday, and we'll email it out to all the select board members. Ooh, yeah, I have everybody's email, right?
Yep, everybody's on that, yep.
Because that will show you the grants we've gotten and how much the town has paid and how much the grants paid out that we got for grants. And you can see a history back a couple of years at least. So that'll be informative, I should think.
Mark, are there other current things going on you want to talk about?
Nothing going on. I did meet with our insurance guy at the town garage, took pictures, and, other than that, there's no, just keeping the roads, passable is my duty.
Full-time job.
Couple
Thank
weeks
you.
here.
I said thank you quietly, I'll say it publicly.
You're welcome.
Because Whitney Hill was a mess this year.
Yeah,
It melted.
everything hill, all
It
the
did.
roads.
It just
I
melted.
know.
Every one of our roads were worse this year than they've been in, like
Yeah.
I said, 10 years. So.
Yeah,
It was a challenge.
So do we need to set up a time to meet, to look at that? Was that the
Yeah.
plan for that
Just
item with the agenda that we're?
We're not.
in light of what we have to do there,
Okay. Oh, we're not there. That's just, you touched on it already, okay.
in light of what we have to do there, we need to look at that. And that's precursor to paving. Isn't it to our benefit to move along quickly in terms of applying, putting out an
Putting it out to
RFP,
bid.
putting out the bid for the paving?
Yes, yep, and that segues nicely into our next agenda, item, which is discussing that road paving RFP.
Where?
It's right
Oh,
on
there
the-
it is.
Yep.
Okay.
So, have you guys had an opportunity to put your heads together on what
The crack and seal?
the road paving RFP? So we wanted to figure
No, well,
out exactly.
some of it was gonna be contingent upon what we do with this particular segment of the highway. But I think Mark has already mapped out what we need to do on Hill Road, or we'll revisit. Did you not map that out? There were two segments on Hill Road, and one is from just above Howard Osgood's farm down to the Hill Road and Grassy Brook intersection. That whole section needs to be done.
Yes,
And then there was one on the, I
okay,
guess, the east end of Hill Road
yes,
that needs,
It's
some
basically where we left off and started.
Yep.
on
down to
both
Grassy
ends.
Brook.
and I think, Mark, did you measured it out, or you gave
Yes, I did.
about what?
Yes, I had it to be a little more than 6/10 of a mile. And I thought that maybe since they were here taking a look at it, that we would consider having them look in and see what it would cost to do the front of the school, because that's getting pretty haggard. And I don't know if it can be worked into what our
Yeah.
budget is, but we got to consider it, I think.
Again, I think when we see the budget, when we see the numbers from that Samara, if Samara could run the numbers, what we have actually in our highway fund, the latest and greatest, because we have no expenditures at this point other than the $250 from O'Brien's.
Yeah, I'll look at it on Friday.
Yeah,
It'll be a
and then
Friday.
maybe also with some sort of guesstimate, because we still have one more tax payment, and everything is contingent upon people paying their taxes. So, we have to be careful, because we also have money that we need for the salt shed. We have to do the matching amount there also, so.
With respect to the paving fund, now you said you figure we have $69,000.
Yeah, that was a guesstimate, and that, that's close, so that would
That's this
basically.
year.
So we have another 30,000 going, but you need to have some money, in the,
Sure.
you can't expend all your money.
No, but
I think we could cover what we have.
Guy, talking like $99,000, it was about $90,000 a mile, if my memory strikes me correct.
89,000 last year, but,
Okay.
yeah, so we have enough to do it.
Having whomever, when we do the RFPs and have them look at both and get different ideas,
Yep.
we can go from there.
Yep.
But if we wait till midsummer, we're gonna be SOL for the year.
I would like to have it done earlier rather than later.
Right.
And maybe when we get the estimate for the RFP if you so elect to have that segment of the highway done, maybe we can incorporate that with the paving company who's gonna do the original paving, so it could be done all in one shot, with one company, and maybe save some money because they're there
You mean
anyway.
the Hill Road project?
Yes,
Yes.
because when they come, they're gonna pave, but they also do, and I don't know, we'd have to have some shoulder work, you know, that obviously has to be done with the paving.
If they
But that could all be part of the RFP, and we can decide there. Yeah.
So you're gonna save money without that.
So I guess, let's jump down to the site visit if we need to.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
No, that's okay. I think it's just that,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I don't know that we totally thought through or discussed through the fact that we can't really put the RFP together until we decide if we're going to do something about the
Right.
sloping or not, and we don't want to continue to wait to be able to finalize the RFP.
Right.
So, a site visit I'll start with Mark. What days and times are most feasible for you to be able to be at that by Johnny's for us to discuss this?
Being that I'm here randomly, just as kind of as needed, I'd just as soon have your input and I'll make sure I'm there. So whatever matches the board's schedule is, I'll make sure I'm available.
Okay, well, let's go around very quickly. Bruce, days of the week,
I'm
times of
fairly
day
open,
that
the only
are...
thing I know, well, yeah, there's some certain things I have going on, so I have to kind of work with you. I'm taking my cat down to South Deerfield next Wednesday, I'm going to Hanover next Friday. I've got an electric training seminar early, next Saturday morning, the 13th at 9 o'clock, so I kind of have to work around what you guys have for an idea. Other than,
Okay.
and then, well, we're gonna do it right away anyway.
Okay. Let's,
So I got
Shelby.
things going on a little bit.
are there days of the week that are better or worse?
It shouldn't take more than 15, 20 minutes.
15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe a Saturday, because people usually work during the week, a Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock.
I don't have a problem with any of that. The only problem is, like I said, on the 13th
Yeah.
at 9 AM.
You know, after the sun gets up and it gets a little warmer,
Yeah.
10, 11 o'clock.
Can a Saturday morning work for other people?
I wouldn't be around on a Saturday, but I have no problem visualizing exactly what's going on without visiting the site.
And you already got marked,
I
right, so,
have marked in orange paint, just a little
Yeah.
arrow about a foot
I
long.
drive past it every day, so.
So
I
if
feel-
you'll take
I'm very
notice,
familiar with that.
take notice in both directions, you know, from the intersection up through as you're getting closer and then coming back.
Yeah.
Mark, will you be there? I mean, I think it would be advantageous for you to explain exactly what your thinking is.
Yeah, whatever the schedule is.
Yeah, I would like to see you there because you have, you know, there's gonna be some questions that I think you would be better off answering than just kind of like second guessing.
Okay, so just looking at the calendar, let's start quickly with this Saturday, the 6th.
Can't,
I'm good, no, I can be there.
but I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can have someone,
Offices.
yeah, you can come and cover, or I can close the office for 15 minutes and say I'm going to the post office. That's fine,
Okay.
I can do it.
And we're thinking 10 o'clock?
10:30, I'm wanting the sun to get up so it warms up, but I think it's supposed to be pretty nice weather for this weekend.
Yeah.
plus we're all Vermonters, we own jackets.
Yeah,
We'll be okay.
Vermont.
10:30, would 10:30 Saturday work for you?
Yeah, I might have to do something on Saturday, but I don't know yet, so I would say plan it, and I also drive over it every single day, and I can walk it, I can check it out as well, but I have a potential family thing I might need help with, but it also might be nothing, so I'd say plan it, cause we should definitely do it before the next
Okay.
meeting, and,
Glenn?
And if you don't make the meeting, if you could maybe pull into the bus service entrance and out and get a better visual.
oh yeah, I go to Cynthia's, pretty, check on her.
Okay, so can 10:30 Saturday work for you, Mark?
Yeah.
Alright, so let's go with that.
10:30, yeah. And I really would like to see as many of you there as possible, because I want you to be able to visualize it and then Mark to be able to answer those questions, because it's an important project.
You know, I just wanna say also, the highways, everything I do in town is based on the safety of all traffic, all people. So this is a safety improvement.
10:30 or 10?
10:30, right?
10:30.
If it were 10, would that make it
Is that
any
better?
different?
There's somebody might need to pick up from a procedure and
Okay.
bring home, I don't know.
The half hour
It'll-
won't, it'll.
No, it'll either be morning or afternoon, or it'll be not at all. It's just gonna depend on when they need help, yeah.
Okay, so 10:30 Saturday, those of us who can will meet,
Today, this week?
yes,
In front of Johnny Swing's garage.
in front of, yeah, right.
No problem, that's good. We'll get that done.
Gonna call Johnny and tell him, there's all these people showing up at his place.
He's trying to work,
Free donuts.
I will let him know.
Free
that's
donuts.
like the donuts.
Maybe you weld all our cars together and
Sounds like even better.
make it a sculpture.
He's not gonna be around.
No, I don't think so.
He's out of town this weekend. Okay, so I'm gonna put on the agenda for next meeting, the
17th.
RFP,
Okay,
Good.
in the hopes that, because we're not gonna have everybody there, because we're not really gonna be able to make a decision as a board about what we're gonna,
Has to be
what
warned.
we wanna do with this or not until that meeting.
okay.
Right.
I'm, you know,
So you
it's starting to get to how critical do we think it is that we, you know, if we want to be able to approve an RFP, then we really need to develop one with this and one without.
Exactly,
Have two, we just
exactly.
And
approve
have
one
the two
and
for
vote
that
it.
meeting,
Yep.
and we approve the one that's appropriate based
Yep.
on the other decision we make.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay with doing it?
Yeah, I'd like to get it out there because I'd like to have the work
Yeah,
done.
'cause then we're getting into May and it's,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. All right, so.
Not to jump the
Sorry.
gun all, but
Yes.
how does everybody feel about this project? I mean, 20,000 is kind of where I expected it to be at the least, and what is everyone thinking on that? It seems like we're moving forward to put the gears in motion, so.
I think it's a great idea.
I think when you look at it,
Until I really look at it and
Yeah.
hear the description more visually. I mean, I don't drive by there ever, so I don't have a great visual of what the difference would be and what it's like with them. So I honestly don't know personally, but.
I think at the next meeting, we can all voice our opinions and, you know, what the cost is and so forth, and go from there and then develop an idea for an RFP at the next meeting, which would be the 17th.
It's just an area of concern over people that live there as well as the public, but it's also, we know we're gonna pave, whether we do it or don't, I guess is the big question.
Yep.
So now would be the time to do it if we vote yes, and if it's a no, then we just go ahead, make the decision to put our half-mile of pavement in.
Maybe we will get a better discount.
Yeah, they're both the same.
Well, I mean, I don't doubt that it would be more cost effective to do it at the same time, but still.
But still say it's an
Whether we can
increase of
afford.
$15,000, yeah, what does that mean to the budget, basically,
Right.
again?
Right.
And
That's
is
a
it worth it?
remarkable idea.
So I guess that's the other thing, Samara, is are you able
Get that
to?
slowed down. This is really lousy.
I'm gonna,
It's dangerous,
I'm making
actually.
myself notes of things that we have
Especially the action coming
to
into
work
the
on
road.
Friday.
Okay, cool.
And we'll have 2 Fridays to get through this, but
Right.
yeah, I'm gonna take a look at what we project to be left in the highway fund balance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I start with what we had as a balance and add in what I think new revenues are and see how much we've spent already. I can kind of go through that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to 8C, which is Susie's Little Peanuts building update.
Thank
brief.
Permit check.
Please.
I will do that.
You got 2 minutes.
Always.
I can do that.
Now you have 1
Anything.
minute and 56 seconds.
Exactly.
1 minute and
You're all
47
talking
seconds.
for 2.5 hours here, and I get 4 minutes, whatever. As you know,
We're just
so,
joking.
no, and would I give you any chocolate in
1
return?
minute and
No.
32
Okay.
Don't
seconds.
waste your minutes.
Anywho,
He's got the gavel.
like my aunt used to say. As you saw, I was a couple of minutes late this evening, not unusual for me, but yeah, no, time. I stopped again at several site visits to Susie's Little Peanuts, and they're doing remarkable work on the inside of the building. They painted the entire inside upstairs. It looks fantastic. Yes, Mark, I've been looking at that damn train, and it's working, and we know what's causing, I'm almost sure it is. And that is because it was plumbed wrong in the first place, I believe, and this is in consultation with Vermont Sewer and Drain.
So you fixed it?
No, you know the way to fix it is we gotta rip out the ceiling downstairs and re-plumb it, and I ain't about to do that right now. Anyway, moving forward. In light of a lot of things, but Susie's doing a remarkable job on the inside of that building. She's done the foyer painted, she's had people in there constantly painting and doing all kinds of stuff.
Oh, great.
Looks really good, looks a lot less, doesn't look run down anymore. To move on to what I'm concerned about, what I want to see going forward, I conceive of, it's realistic by July 1st that we could have the foyer done, the whole outside of the whole building done. I'm talking about the whole building. The front of the entranceway and the front of the new addition, of the new part called new addition, 1987 addition. Same painting and trim, I was hoping to have a light to show you the louvers that are in this building here. You have a light here? No? Can you see outside there? You're not gonna see anything. The ventilation first on the north side of the old building. That would, in essence, complete the old building, other than the windows. Joseph and I toured the building the other day. Shelby couldn't make it because she's been feeling good. And you're open to.
I'll come by anytime.
Have my little tour anytime you want to do it, I'm happy to do it. I did notice a rotten crown molding, which we haven't seen before, on the southeast corner of the addition part of the building. I don't know how the hell we're gonna fix that. That's gotta be 20, 25 feet up. It's a real challenge to figure out how and which that is gonna be fixed, and the rest of the building painted and mold removal before that. Probably have to be hired out. Can't go down that road right yet. I'm trying to keep myself focused with the stuff that I can get done. So that's after. And then we'll talk about the RFP for the windows after that. But that's basically what I'm focused on right now, trying to finish the outside of the building, the entranceway, the front, in front of the new part of the building, or the newer part of the building, painting the windows that are fine, not the windows that need to be worked on. And the outside staining and trim work, whether it be painting, we've already put ventilation, you already know that, on the south end of the old building, that's already done. But other ventilation, which makes it much easier and more nominal in terms of cost effectiveness, on the north side facing the church. And between the two projects, between that and the foyer, I would look at under $1,000. And right now, Samara can tell me if I'm right, I think we're just starting to go into the black with the budget, with the money coming in from the rental.
So what happens is there's, I forget what the current rent is. What is it? $1,300 a month, and just a little background, which you probably know. When we inherit, the town got the building for $1. Same as we got the church building for $1.
5 years ago.
The church building came with like about $28,000 that Ladies Benevolent Society had saved up from various things, bake sales, quilt funds, stuff. And we've had a few good fundraisers just by town folk for that building. The school building has $1,300 a month rent, and we inherited the building that, to be blunt, WCSU gave us a building with lots of deferred maintenance, like lots. Well, as Bruce, I'm sure, has told you ad nauseum.
I'll give you two
But-
in 60 seconds or less.
No more, but because we all know, but we got it, we were in the hole because we were responsible for paying the heat, and when Dot and Bruce redid the lease, we no longer paid the heat. They had like a $6,000 a year heating allowance that WCSU gave them to get that building occupied. They were desperate to get it occupied, okay? And it was not a bad thing because it was just kind of molding. It was literally molding from sitting there unoccupied. But once that was done, we've been in the black, and as soon as we deposit the rent check, we're in the black again. We managed to keep, you can't run a town fund at a deficit, it's not legally allowed in the state of Vermont. So we have to always have we always have to be equal, we have to not go over, and we always have to, have a positive net fund balance at the end of the year. So with the school building, it vacillates time to time, like earlier in the year, he got ahead with repairs. And so we were a little bit, I think we were like $187 in the hole until I post the rent check, and then we'll be back in the black, $1,000. And then, because Bruce bugs us now for the financial statements, I know he's minding the budget, so that's the history, that's all I have to add. Sorry. But any questions, I'm open, email them to me.
Yeah, I have questions about that. I was thinking about, was there actually a budget? Like, do you have a breakdown of like what the monthly costs are in and out based on your past expenses? Or is that something that I could cite? I'd be happy to sift through that if I could get the transactions from you.
Well, there's a list of revenue, yes, there's a financial, so Shelby, every single fund has its own, in fund accounting, each separate fund is treated as if it's a separate company.
Yeah.
And so, yes.
There is a budget.
There's not a budget per se, because there's no town voted budget.
Okay.
However, a budget could be created.
Okay.
And in fact, 2 years ago, I asked every single fund person to create a budget. Because what you know for a fact is based on the lease, you can budget the revenue, you know what your revenue is gonna be. So if you look historically at the expenses, and then probably talk to Dot and Bruce, because some of the expenses are changing, like the water testing was a killer.
$1,000 last year.
That was a big expense that should not be recurring, but yes.
And the engineering, $4,100 for the engineering.
Right, so there were a lot of one-off expenses that should not be recurring, but I would love it if people did a budget for that building, including building a surplus for capital reserves.
Yes.
We're not supposed to show any income,
But
but we need upkeep.
we need a surplus for upkeep, and if we call it a capital reserve,
Then it's not
It's
a
not-
surplus. I mean, it's not
right,
income.
and
Yeah.
technically, the rule with municipalities is you can't be in the business of being a landlord. However, if you need the building for community use and town use, you can have what's called incidental rental. So if you look at the rental revenue, that's what it's called on our revenue statement. It's called monthly incidental revenue, rent revenue. Because that's what it is, because we use that building for town meeting. And it could be available pending the lease agreement, for other community purposes. So, and in point of fact, also the daycare, having a daycare center in our community, that's gotta be a benefit. There's so few daycare centers down in our neck of the woods, so
So then could you poll
I will
Could
pull
you-
those reports.
for the
Now,
last couple of years?
Right here.
Bruce
But I think we
probably
need them
has them,
electronically, I mean, the rest of
but
us do.
what I will do is I
Copy
will,
if you like.
I will give you current year through February. So all the financial reports you ever wanna look at, they're always in a notebook up on top of the file cabinet. And I should send you instructions on how to look at them, because there's a lot of paper. But they're done by month, and the financial reports for every single fund are in there monthly. Usually, by this time, I'd have emailed out the February financial statements to everybody. But we're behind because we had a problem with the general ledger, as I explained. But yes, there are financial reports you can happily go through and ask any questions. And there's numerous types of reports.
The expenses are going down dramatically. I don't know what the pay orders look like for, now we're getting into April, for these 3 months. But I looked at all the information you're giving me, Samara, and I'm crossing off stuff that we're not gonna have again, hopefully. Excessive
Well, so really,
plumbing.
Shelby, once you get the financial reports, then you really, Bruce and Dot really made huge leaps and bounds in headway of making this not money-losing thing. You know, and we haven't had to put any tax dollars into it. So, in answer to your question, an operating budget for all of the funds would be great.
Yeah.
I'd like to particularly see one for this fund and the church building fund, because the meeting house, because the meeting house, that would give them targets to shoot for and a structure for when it will be a usable space.
But they have no income coming in. They have 20 grand.
It doesn't matter, they
Does
should
it?
have a budget, they should, you know, they can have a budget for looking for grant revenue, they could have a budget, you know.
But if we can start by doing this building.
We can start by
since it's the-
start with this building and then move on, right, absolutely.
Like I said, there's a lot of expenses here that we're just not gonna have this year. And it's coming reflective of it, like I said, we'll look at the pay order.
And then there
The
is,
first
you know,
quarter has been nothing.
well, there is a small capital reserve that's held in the general fund for capital improvements, which I don't believe it's restricted to a particular building. So, the select board can have at it for a policy on how to use that.
It's a capital improvement reserve of $4,337.
Right, that's what I was referring to.
And in as much as we don't have, of course, we don't have a budget set that you're correct. Sand and salt shed's different, that's being handled by a grant.
No, that comes out of the highway fund.
We'll move that away.
That doesn't impact this fund.
This building, if I got you right the other day when we were talking, Samara, the town property maintenance covers this building, which is $1,200 in it right now. That's what you said.
And what, no,
It said town property.
we have an annual maintenance budget for this, and it also includes the mowing of the soccer field.
Right,
Okay.
It's mostly mowing.
that's exactly what it is.
So I'm just saying, if anybody's concerned about having to spend any capital improvement reserve money on this building, it's pretty much non-existent. There's nothing to spend it on in this building. And across the street, the round schoolhouse isn't fun. Samara, do you know, have any guesstimate what we have left in the round schoolhouse fund?
We're getting way far afield from the.
Yeah, let's not.
Let's not get into that. I mean, that's not,
But they spent a lot of money to get rid of the powder post wheels. So they're down
Right.
to about 2,900.
That's all I wanted to know for an answer.
Yeah.
And I already said, there's $30,000 or $20,000, actually, 19.5 in the meeting house fund to do with whatever. So as far as capital improvement reserve for any of the buildings, all those buildings, all those structures are pretty much have their own entity at this point in time. The only thing that we haven't really resolved is how we're gonna handle the very neglected school building, which is what I'm trying to bring up to up to speed. That kind of segues into the RFP for the repainting of the windows.
Right, which we're not to yet.
Okay, whatever, David.
Well, no, Bruce, we have an agenda.
Okay, well, then finish.
Some of us have painstakingly put together an agenda, asked for feedback from
Fine,
people if they
fine,
wanted
then-
changes,
then
and
go
then
ahead.
we're going to follow it, because that's the
Okay.
way
Okay,
an
then-
organized meeting works.
Excuse
We will
me,
get to
I
the,
apologize because we have the
Next
change of
item,
paper
just a
in
second.
the middle.
yep, right. Okay, next up, consider changing paper of record. We had the discussion last week about the commons and whether it would be viable, and then we also had some thoughts about whether could we have our paper of record be one thing, but still publish RFPs separately. Joseph, I think you were gonna maybe try to reach out to somebody and see what you can find out.
Yeah, so we had the two legal questions, and I tried to contact the VLCT on 3 separate occasions, and I just didn't have any luck with them, not due to their fault, I believe. I left a message with one lady who's a lawyer, and I assumed she'd be getting back to me, well, I hoped prior to this meeting, but that didn't happen, so I didn't.
Do you know who you spoke to, Joseph? Because I can give her a little.
I think her name was
Sarah Jarvis?
Maybe it was Sarah.
Okay.
I spoke to the
Receptionist?
the receptionist, and she
Teresa?
put me in contact with
Yeah,
with
Teresa,
somebody.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just
No, normally they're pretty good at getting back, but maybe there was, I don't know.
Email's really good too. If you use email, it's a pretty good way.
I left them my email, so
Okay.
she might be contacting me that way as well.
The only thing I noticed, and I've been going through the common paper every week and now even more so, and I've yet to see anybody advertise some legal things in there. Have you seen it? I looked through the whole paper, and so I'm curious why they don't. Is it just because of circulation? I don't know. Or is it just because it's a weekly? I don't know.
I don't know either. I did get, because I think we maybe briefly discussed at some point not being completely positive what the rates from the reformer are, but I did get I reached out to them and got their legal notice per inch rates, which is $24.90 per column inch, which I can't recall, I know you had gotten rates from the comments, I don't honestly remember what they were though.
I can find those in just a minute.
But in any event, I think we don't have enough information or enough of a feeling yet to, I'm gonna assume by most people, for us to change anything, so we'll
Yeah, I think just those
continue
two
it.
big
Yeah,
questions.
pending getting some more information, it's still something we keep on our radar, but nothing to act on right now. Okay, now we're down to 8E, consider RFP to repaint windows at Sue's Little Peanuts building.
There's a mistake here. No, it was someday school. Anywho, I did a little bit of work. I spent an hour with Kevin Lawson from Perkins Lumber the other day, who's been there since 1980. And replacing those windows, if we were to replace them, it'd be in excess of $1,000 without labor.
Per window.
Per window. A lot of money, and can't be guaranteed at this point. This is after working out with him, talking to him about what could be done as far as replacing that window. And it's really difficult, they don't really have 16 pane windows anymore. These are pretty much 100-year-old windows that the wood's in outstanding shape. In fact, Joseph and I looked at the building the other day, and we also looked at the way the windows were done in the meeting house. And the windows in the, if I can use your words, Joseph, you called them beautiful.
They are nice, but as I said, that's.
I will take it out of context.
Yes.
Joseph's concerns are the insulation value of a single pane window
Right.
and the R factor of it. So noted. But that could be the RF factor of a window is pretty nominal anyway, even a double pane or a triple pane. And that could be made up of window quilts and or drapes, and right at this time, it doesn't seem to be the highest concern for this town to consider that because we have a lessee with that building. What I'm concerned about is having those windows look the way they are now and in the future, because that's the way the building's always been. That's the first thing. The second thing is, which I wanted to replace the windows. And it was Mo, you've heard this argument before, this discussion before. Mo Mama, he stopped me and said, look at this wood. You're not gonna replace this wood, and we looked to get at it this last weekend. And those windows are in really fine shape, other than replacing some of the cords in the windows. And, but it needs to be scraped, oil primed, puttied, reprimed, and two coats of high-end acrylic paint, Sherwin-Williams, Reliance, or something comparable. And that's coming from Old Mom. Somebody's been doing it since before I was married, that's the early 70s. And if anybody, I'm not saying we're gonna pick him if we do this, but I'm just saying, use him as a point of reference. And if you look at the outside of this building, which he's done, when the town was having problems with it peeling, and if you look at Peter Meyer's building, which is across from the daycare, you'll see the kind of work he's done. It's been all over the valley. Again, like I said, I don't know if he'd win the RFP or our conference to go that forward. I'm just using his experience and what he said to me. And as far as I'm concerned, we don't need to stop at this point. I need to finish that building. It has been in serious neglect for a serious long time. We've got rotten trim, moldy paint, and we're moving along. But if we put this off for another year, then we're talking another almost 2 years to paint it. And two things. First of all, we got an agreement from Susie's little daycare at $70,000 for the next 3 years. We don't know what's gonna happen after that. In light of the political situation in the country right now, it's applicable to note that daycares are under scrutiny as far as cost of what it costs to take a kid to daycare. And they're talking about doing something with the government and all this other stuff. But the bottom line is, we've already started to see a change in that in our community, with Townsend taking over some of the preschool kids and this restructuring of the pre-K through 6 and 7 through 12. So we don't know. Hope it'd be great if Susie took a second lease. Then we'd be looking at $140,000 for 6 years through 2025. But in light of that, it's really important we finish this building that has been extremely neglected for an extremely long time. You've heard of what I had to say about the mold and the trim and everything, the painting and the staining and all this other stuff. And and most of you know the work that has been done. The beauty of this is, once we're past this and the painting, any funds, proceeds that we get from this, from Susie's little daycare, could go right next door. And that's, in actuality, more an expensive cost than what we're looking at in this building. Because I had 2 quotes for the meeting house, inside and out. From Mommy and from Nick, I forget his last name now, escapes me, but he's a competent painter in Brattleboro, and both of them pretty much concurred that all the mold has to be removed on the inside of the building. It has to be hand wiped, not that I'm getting off too much on it, and it will cost up to $30,000 to do inside and outside of that building, just as a point of reference in terms of expense. So it would be to our benefit to finish this building, move over to the meeting house and put money into that building. If anybody's got any questions, I'm sure some people are thinking some things right now, but in terms of cash flow, we're starting to go in the black. We talked about the expenses of the building. They've gone down dramatically. There's nothing perfect here. We could get a plumbing bill, we could get something happening, but all the major stuff, the heating, the water system, the major part of the plumbing changed, we had toilets changed, a lot has been done, and that is the reason why the cost has gone down dramatically. Now we need to orient on finishing the rest of this building, and that's why I've chosen not to do any more work on the plumbing because I feel it's usable at this point. I think we need to earmark our money towards stuff that matter in terms of permanency. And I really feel that we should do these windows, do the outside of the building, and like I told Dave Zalesko, our carpenter, who's been absolutely beautiful. When you're thinking of what we're doing on this building, Dave, think in terms of 30 years. That's what we're talking about in terms of the decks. My guess, and it's an educated guess, that the paint trim has never been touched since the building was done. I'm talking about the addition specifically. It looks to me as though it's one coat of paint, got mold on it, and that's where it sits. We finish that building, not only is it gonna be good in terms of our cost budget down the road, but when people come by and see the building and see how it's improved, it'll uplift them thinking, boy, things are getting really done in this town. We've done a lot to the church, we've done a lot to the school, now it looks good. If we do what I suggest, what I spoke about originally, was finish the outside, it's gonna look great, and it's all positive.
So back to the RFP,
Okay,
if you think it's gonna be like around $800 per window, there's 10 windows.
correct.
So the RFP, you would have, when you put the RFP in, you would want the date for the response as of when. So
But-
when would you want will you put in the RFP when you want the painting to be done?
By November 1st.
Okay.
So in as much as that's being said about what you're talking about, it doesn't hurt us to put an RFP in, get an approved person. I have an approved person. We're using him as a point of reference. We might come up with Tom Stats.
Well, I know what an RFP.
We have
I
a
know
local
what that-
painter. Tom Stats could come in at 500 a window. And I doubt if anybody in this room thinks that that's not a good idea, okay? Given that, we'll have it set up to have it done.
Okay.
And as far as the cash flow, depending on what you want to do as capital improvement reserve, I was segueing until we had to go into that next article on the agenda. We do have 4337 sitting aside for the capital improvement reserve. It's not for paving, it's not for the sand and salt shed, as we discussed, or anything else, it's for the buildings. We only need $3,663 to make that $8,000. Now we're in the black a little bit. Next month, we got another $1,300. June, we got another $1,300. Of course, it's minus expenses. Then we go to $1,600 a month.
So basically, we just need to vote or to discuss whether we want to put an RFP in now
Yes,
to have that completed by November.
correct.
Well, it's like a no-brainer, we don't have to approve it.
That's right. That's right. So if we put the RFP in,
I mean, we don't have to,
We should,
Yeah.
as we discussed before, we shouldn't put an RFP in without having approved it already, because then we would be spending the money for the RFP. We would be wasting the bidders' times. We should, that's acting before we've made a decision.
well, that's not exactly what I meant, but.
look,
I'd really like to see if you could have a draft of an RFP ready for the next meeting, and if I can look at the financials and kind of maybe get a better grasp, to kind of address the concerns I have about the budget. You have a draft? Cool. So then if maybe we can have a chance to look at this next meeting, I'll make a point to look at the numbers and kind of come back with what I think I'm seeing in that kind of long-term budget versus the changes you're saying you're seeing in a
that's fine.
decreased expenses. And so I'll kind of come back with a, hey, you guys, I reviewed it, here's some stuff I pulled,
enough.
and then we can kind of contrast that with what your RFP looks like, and then we can kind of make a decision on whether we want to put that RFP in.
Yeah, because I'll say that, I mean, I'm concerned about whether we can afford to do this, because I'll say from my standpoint, I do not agree that capital improvement money
Should be used for
should
that.
necessarily be used to fix windows on that building.
okay, what would you use the capital?
So
What-
I'm looking at it personally from the standpoint of the revenue from this building needs to be comfortable enough to be able to afford to cover this cost and have us still feel like we have the cushion to deal with some of the inevitable problems we have in order for that to happen, which maybe it can.
Understand that.
I don't
But
think
the
we
capital
really have
improvement
the answer.
reserve is not for expenses for fixing the building. I mean like plumbing and things of that nature. It's for fixing up the building, is the way I perceive it.
You guys, that's a separate.
Well, it's an
Yeah, that's a
emergency
separate
fund.
conversation. I mean, I guess I'll just say I would argue it is also potentially for buildings that, I know you say that this building has $1,200 in maintenance budgeted for it or something, and that's not a capital improvement fund for this building.
This furnace
So,
dies in here.
So anyway,
Well, think about
that's,
it a little bit.
yeah, but I mean, I think to Shelby's point,
reviewing the
if we can have a bit more of a snapshot that we can all see of
Yeah, and then I can
what
just
a
kinda like
budget might look
play
like,
with them.
Okay,
then we
You
can
got a
maybe
list
get more
for Friday.
comfortable.
okay,
Yeah.
and you can see what your cash flow is coming in, but keep in mind, that it's not a waste of time to put out the RFP and hold off the contractor for 3 or 4 months. Example is Pete Newton, when he did the building over here. He couldn't do it the first year. We asked him at that point in time, and that was a $20-some-odd thousand job, if he'd keep his price constant and we do it in the spring. And he did, and it went forth. This is kind of the simple kind of attitude, same kind of attitude. Once we've lined somebody up, and of course I keep pointing to Mo Mom, it could be Tom Stats, it could be, what's his name?
But I agree with Joseph too, you don't put an RFP out until we're definitely sure we want that work done.
Right, that we
Okay.
can generally afford to do.
Right.
I mean, I think that's it. Not necessarily that we're
Saying it
only
doesn't
gonna do
need
it
to
if
be done.
it's $5,000 and that we won't if it's
You want to
6,000,
decide
but
whether you
just
want to do the work itself or not.
that we think we have the money to be able to do the work.
Okay, look at the
Which
budget
I'm
and
not
see
sure
what
that
that.
we feel that way yet.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I'll add that I don't think I'm hearing from anybody, and certainly not from myself, anybody doubting that we should do this work and that the work needs to be done. It's just whether we can realistically afford to do it.
Okay.
Well, I will say that, not to start a huge argument about it now, but I still
At
Why not?
8:22.
don't think that it's prudent to fix the old windows personally. And
You're
that's-
you're still interested in looking at the possibility of replacing them?
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt, I don't think in any situation in a state like Vermont, other than in a historical building like the church, it's
not a
prudent to
historical
fix.
I don't know if it's designated historical, I doubt it, but the building's close to
Residential
100 years
or
old.
town-owned or commercial, I just don't think that it's a wise decision. And if you pulled up, you said around about $1,000 per window.
1,100 plus.
Without labor, so you're only looking at a 30% increase to get a brand new window that's going to be over 45, well, depending on what window you get, over 40% better R value than the old window.
But our value is very small.
Well, I
Even
understand,
double
but
and triple pane windows.
All right, this can be,
So would you be interested in
Yeah.
pulling some information about replacing the windows for?
I mean, we could look into that, but I think, Bruce, you said that you already found
So
some.
the impression you got was about $1,000 for the
1,100 plus.
windows.
It was hard to nail down.
Yeah.
Second reference point.
First of all, they're
they
custom
don't know
built.
what they have to do with
Yeah.
the frames.
Yeah, they're custom built.
He's great.
Because no one makes an 80 by 37 or whatever, 57-inch size window. They're very big. The ones, the first floor, the next 3 over are a little smaller. But then you don't have to, you're not replicating exactly what's in there, so you're changing the look of the building a little bit too.
Right.
Which to me is a concern, it might be a concern of other people in the town. I don't think it's not classified, well, yeah, I think so, David.
Maybe.
Look,
Yeah, I'm
Maybe.
questioning whether it would, but maybe.
okay,
But currently, it's not like it's not a historical building on record, there's no
No, it
plaque out
isn't.
front.
I don't
There's
believe it
no-
is.
We're not restricted technically by any kind of.
no, we're not, no, we're not, that's accurate.
May a disinterested party
Sure.
make the remark that
If you're
there
still
seems to be
awake.
consensus in this meeting, but further research is needed.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Nicely summarized, so you just wanna cut
Since
to
time
writing
may be
that?
of the essence in the event that you want to do something, the further research is probably what you should discuss now, so you can do it better.
Yeah, so I'll be looking into the budget. I'll look into the money part of things. I'll kind of like review the information that you have and
You can have these copies. and
I'll even take those copies.
Well, I'll have copies.
And Bruce, you've already gotten obviously some numbers, and then Joseph and I were saying that maybe we get a second reference point for new windows.
Oh, that's fine.
Maybe WW to see what they would say.
Okay. That's what I said before, that was my first idea.
Yeah.
To
No, I know, and then I know, so
You heard
but
me
that's,
right.
that's a
To be
very
dis-
strong concern for somebody on the board,
Yeah.
so yeah. Yeah, so I think it can't hurt to have that information. That would be another, that would be another research point for the next meeting.
I could talk to John and everything.
Windows
Yeah.
gonna get blown out.
I just said.
We're gonna need all of it. Okay.
Okay, now we segue into something that'll be super easy also. 8F, consider building commissioner position.
Fire me, hire you.
I think it needs to be tabled.
I'm gonna suggest that as what you wanna move.
I move, because this is running a little later, I would recommend that maybe table consider the building commissioner position till next week, because I don't think it's,
It's up to you.
Anybody have a problem with that?
No.
Okay, let's do that.
and it sounds like we might be losing power shortly.
Why, because of the wind?
No, that's not the wind,
I
it's,
don't understand.
that's some jets up there playing
Oh,
around.
is that what it is?
Okay, so we're gonna
What
table,
generator when you weren't looking?
we're gonna table 8F.
So they're testing the 35s up there.
I'll let bring this straight to me.
Yeah, that's the
Dog fighting.
35s for Burlington.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, moving on to
Now that you said that.
new business. We have actually hit everything that was under new business. So then we're,
I just had one question.
Sure. Oh, yes.
At our meeting Saturday, should we invite Mrs. Now and somebody from the bus service just to let them know what we're doing, or just want to keep it the
I think they could
select?
probably come to a meeting to express their.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think I'd prefer that it just be us, so we can talk about the
Okay.
potential of that and
I
not
didn't know.
get
Not
sidetracked by
get their
that.
hopes
I mean, we
I
certainly,
don't know.
Cynthia's come and expressed
Yeah.
what her concerns are, so I think we're clear on that. It's more us getting a look at it probably.
Yep, good.
But thank you for thinking of that. Okay, moving on to communications. Luckily, this will be fairly swift. No email communications particularly, and only one piece of regular mail. And then right
I'm
behind
gonna leave
it,
it out of the envelope, because it's
right
easier.
behind it, I will pass along the pay orders. And you already got that one piece of regular mail, right? So
Got all that?
5 hours or whatever it was.
Is that the key for the,
Yes, I made you a second one. I made you another one.
you made another one?
You were saying on there you only have one, now you have
No, that's good, thanks.
two. Now you have a second.
Well, you did what you had to do and you're done?
Yes, we just looked at, unless Shelley wants to look at the inside of the round schoolhouse. Oh, I gotta keep too, so I'm good.
Whatever you say.
Hey, welcome, I have access.
Okay, while those are going on, let me just discuss 12, setting the agenda for the April 17th meeting. We'll have an agenda item for the meeting house. Leanne Parker is going to come talk about the meeting house a little bit. I will probably put on Green Up Day, because that's only one.
Oh,
We'll still have snow by then.
Yikes.
boy, we're piling up on
I
that.
gotta send an email out about that. I'm our Green Up Day coordinator for one more year.
For 2 more years?
No,
Oh.
this is the last year. We'll have the LAMP review and hopefully approval. We will have further discussion on the RFP for the windows. We will have discussion of the building commissioner position, the usual roads and town clerk updates. Anything?
Green
else?
Up Day is May
Yeah, so I did
4th,
just mention that,
so
yeah.
maybe you might want
So, speaking of which, the bags should be
I
coming
got
in.
I got the posters, I didn't get the bags yet.
Yeah, the bags should be coming in. I saw an email that they're, I think that we should probably get them.
Usually just a couple of days before as a rule.
Oh, yeah, wait, yeah, right. We're still a month away.
How far
Yeah, in the
away?
next couple of weeks.
Are we?
We're a
because-
month away.
May 4th. May
It's a month
4th
from
is
tomorrow.
I know,
You
we
could
talked
leave it
about
at-
in the
I think
past,
it's the wrong one.
there used to be
I don't know.
getting involvement from the green schools around.
Yeah, you know, I reached out to Scotty last year and didn't really get any more, and I will try again.
Yeah, I mean, they used to do like, the kids would draw a poster about Green Up Day, and you really get them involved and get the families out, but that seems to have gone away. And I've noticed in the past 5 years, each year, smaller group, it's down
Yeah,
to
last year,
several
when we
people.
had 10 people.
I think I counted, it was like 20, maybe, but yeah, it's not very many.
Yeah.
Anything else for the agenda that anybody can think of?
What's that?
You check with Dottie about the
Oh, no, I
cemetery?
think it's
You
right.
want a guy to check on that cemetery property?
did.
With the deed
Yeah,
and
we should
everything?
circle back to that, right? Austin Cemetery. Mark, before I forget,
I gave it a bid, I was thinking of.
would you mind, if you see Archie, would you mind just confirming with him whether we use his truck again and all that? I mean, assume we can, but.
Yeah.
And as we get closer, you and I we should separately talk and strategize about Ellen Ware, because there's some serious stuff down there.
Have they done it on the snow?
Oh, I'm
Is
sorry,
it
what?
very recent?
No, well, the stuff I know of was there
Last fall.
after snow started, after the road closed, but
I forget exactly.
I don't know what.
It's
What is
Yeah, I haven't taken a ride up
There's
there.
some significant couches and stuff like that.
Yes.
You hadn't,
March
guys also heard from some of the women who hike up Putney Mountain Road a lot, that there's a bunch of stuff again up above Johnny's house, which is typical.
Nothing.
Which Johnny might,
We had no cost in that.
Johnny is usually,
For repairs.
tries to grab a bunch of that stuff as well,
Right.
You should see what's in here.
but yeah,
You'll have
we'll
it.
figure
I'm
out
ready
the
to grab that
strategy for all
crap out
that
of it.
Go for it.
as we get closer.
Have at it. I'll give you copies.
I think,
Oh, sorry, post.
when do we want to start considering putting together a commission or starting the discussion about the piece of equipment for the town, or the potential of buying a piece of equipment for the town?
Right, we tabled that and haven't put it back on. I'm just looking to see what do we have next time.
I was thinking after the Green Up Day in May, only because we have dog licensing, I'm pretty busy, but I think May would be a time to start considering talking about that.
Is it available still?
I don't know yet, to be honest with you, but I would like to, revisit that whole situation because I think we missed an opportunity, but that's neither here nor there. We can just talk about it.
Okay. Why don't I'm gonna, if it's okay with everyone, then I'm gonna make a note to myself to expect that we're gonna put it back on the agenda for the 15th.
Okay,
the
that's
May
great,
15th
yep.
Meeting.
The 15th of May.
And I can keep some future notes on this. Yes,
I will not be here on the first, I'll be on vacation.
May 1st. Okay.
I won't either, but
Oh,
I can
that's
call
right.
in.
You're gonna Skype it or?
I can just call in.
Yeah, we can do a conference call.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
You should.
It's a family vacation.
You knew exactly where I was going with that, don't you, Randy?
You're not gonna call in?
Commissioner, highways and roads officer.
And I like my head on my shoulders.
Yeah, on vacation, or?
Okay, so pay orders. I'd like to make a motion that we accept payroll warrant 2019-39 dated April 2nd, 2019 in the amount of $1,674.51. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of accepting payroll warrant 2019-39 dated April 2nd, 2019 in the amount of $1,674.51 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Did everybody
Yep, count payable.
Yeah, does everybody sign that? My same signature.
No, because you've got both two signatures, yours and Joe's are on the same line. You both kind of sign alike. Joseph signed up here, I think.
No, I think Joseph's down there. I just think there's only, I think I only count 4 there.
Yeah, I don't think you signed.
No, that's okay. Okay, and now I make a motion that we
You need to
Oh, Bruce, you signed
approve,
over my signature.
approve accounts payable.
Oh, because they all
Okay.
initial-ish.
All right, I make a motion that we approve accounts payable warrant 2019-38 dated April 3rd, 2019 in the amount of $13,589.45. Do I have a second?
I second that motion that has no
Missing
figures
signature.
in the school.
Okay, all those, any discussion? No. All those in favor of approving accounts payable warrant 2019-38 dated April 3rd, 2019 in the amount of $13,589.45 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? No. Okay, we're
I don't
good
see-
with that.
Bruce, I don't see your signature on this one.
Yeah. We've already
You're
set
right,
the
actually.
agenda.
Okay, that's what.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Thank
Make
you,
the
Glenn.
motion?
I was so anxious because it
Oh, I thought you
was.
said you made the, I'll make the, I thought you said I made the motion.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay,
No,
no,
you-
I made the
I would
motion.
entertain it.
I was so excited because it was.
Well, I moved the
Second. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. We are adjourned at 8:35.